Oh, I did have a four-jaw chuck for the Vernon after all. I thought I got a four-jaw chuck with the Vernon. I know now why I got a little confused there and thought maybe that South Bend chuck was what I was thinking of. Because this is the one that I tried yesterday. It doesn't have a backing plate. Grabbed it by mistake, and it's actually somewhat similar. All right, so the rough adjustment basically is done with the use of these lines, these concentric circles that are on the chuck here. So once you get it kind of close, then I guess I can put an indicator on it. And actually, at first, I don't even need to actually indicate. If I just get the plunger, the indicator close to it, I can actually probably watch it go in and out as I rotate it, because I know I'm still pretty far out. All right, so hopefully this will show up pretty well. But I don't have the indicator actually touching the piece because I'm so far out that if I even start rotating around, I can see the piece is going to start to hit the indicator. So obviously, I'm not centered there. So I can do this whole front to back thing here, kind of keeping the trucks and working the two jaws that are across from each other. But just the fact that as I rotate this thing's coming so far over this way, that tells me that also this jaw, the piece needs to go this way in this axis. So right off the bat, I know I can actually move this over a little bit this way. Ideally, you would want to have two chuck keys and kind of work these simultaneously. And I can see that's still coming back even further. I'll take this even further off. All right, so if I put it right there, it's pretty close to touching. And then if I bring the opposite jaw over, it's pretty far away. So I'm going to split the difference with those two jaws. In other words, I'm going to loosen this one and try and bring this piece over towards me. The distance that it's, about half the distance that it's out. This chuck could use some attention. It needs to be taken apart, cleaned, and oiled. The thing was sitting in the gunk. Right, there we go. Okay, now I'm getting closer to the ballpark. So now I'm going to reposition my indicator so that I'm actually indicating on this thing and not just looking at the spacing and eyeballing it. Okay, I mean, that's a mile out. Because I don't have the experience, I have to stop and constantly think about, well, wait a minute, what does that mean that the indicator is going clockwise? Does that mean that that part is higher? And if that's the case, then I need to get it lower, so that means I got to tighten this jaw and loosen this one, and yada, yada, yada. And I also got to turn it 90 degrees to get the wrench in there. So if that's at 0 there, all right, because I was still so far out, I was actually running up against the limit of the travel of that indicator, so I was a 0.5 indicator. So I decided to just put a drop indicator in here, and I'll get close to where I need to be with this, and then I'll throw the other indicator back on. I'm about 68 thousandths out. Alright. So I'm going to play with this until I get closer. This is going to be painstaking to watch, so I'll pause the camera and wait until I get dialed in a little bit here. Okay guys, took me about 10 minutes, maybe a little less. I didn't actually time myself, but this is where I'm at now. If I that's at like 11 thousandths right now, and if I go 90 degrees, see it barely moves. Another 90, a little fluctuation there, another 90. Little fluctuation there. You can see it's staying pretty much on, and actually that fluctuation is probably playing my spindle bearing, because I know that I have about 1.5 thou spindle play and play on the spindle. Yeah, this is an old lathe. But I'll tell you, I'll double check it with the 1/2 thou indicator on there, but I'm so close, for my purposes, I think I'm so close right there that I don't want to mess with it. The only thing I'm not sure of is I'm not sure if I've completely tightened down all the 4 jaws completely, so probably going to find the jaw that's on the high side and torque down on that. Hopefully it won't throw it out too far. So now I'm 3.5 thou because of that, the jaws on that chuck and the adjustments being kind of sloppy. Alright guys, I just mounted my 1/2 thousandths indicator again and tweaked it a little bit here and there, and now I can pretty much go all the way around and stay within 1 thousandth. So just going to double check, make sure it's tight enough, and then I'm going to get set to bore my hole. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to face this, so I've locked my carriage. Alright, so I just checked that shaft, and it's 750 thousandths, 3/4 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center drill, and then I'm going to drill a hole through, and then I'm going to counter bore, get close to 750 thousandths, and then I'm going to use a small boring bar to finish the job, so that in case the hole, when it drills, is a little off center, the boring bar will clean that up, and hopefully I'll stay perfectly concentric to the outside diameter here. Oops, got to lock my tailstock. Grind them and find them. It happens. Damn it. Well, the only boring bars I have that take carbide inserts are too large to do this job. So, except for the one I have that's super tiny, which is too small to do this job. And too small for this lathe, quite frankly. But anyways, so I mounted this boring bar in here, like this, and I tried to put it on center. I had to bring it up a little bit because it was rubbing. That hole is just large enough now, I think, where I can actually get this to go in. So if I back this off, see it now goes into the hole. So if I bring it out, I can take a light cut. It's sticking out a little bit more than I would like. But I do want to take a, well, I don't even need to really bore the full length of the thing, because I am going to cut this down shorter eventually. So, well, let's see what happens. And because that started cutting and it stopped, my suspicion is that actually the forces are pushing the cutter out of the holder. Nope, still looks okay. Interesting. Alright, I'm going to take it out of back gear. I think I've got it too low, and I had it too low because it wouldn't go in before, but now the hole's a little bit bigger. I think maybe I can afford to maybe raise this a little bit. That's better. That's a lot better. Not quite there yet, but it's cutting much nicer. Maybe a couple thou too much on that last pass. Problem I'm having, I think, is that the tool bit is flexing. Well, I either live with the way it is, or I start over again. And I don't have another piece of stock. I don't think 3/4 inch. So, okay, the thickness of this collar, I want it to be the same thickness as the inside of this cutter, or actually a tiny bit under even would be okay. So that when I do my clamping, I'm gonna have to make another part to go on top of here and clamp this. And I don't want the clamping force to be on the collar. I want the clamping force to be on this area right here. I could have got fancy and I could have made, actually, if I started with a larger diameter piece, I could have turned down the section to go in here and left a larger diameter here. In retrospect, I wish I had done that, but I'm just going to make a separate piece. So I'm just going to, I don't need to get too fancy with this measurement. Put this down on a flat surface. So it looks like if I do 600 thousandths on the button, that'll be roughly 20 thousandths less than what it is now. And so I'm just going to use my, lock my carriage. There. I hate that noise. That horrible noise is actually the, there's a gear that I can shift out of position that shuts down the gear train. for the feed. And when I'm just feeding by hand like that and I don't need it, I don't like listening to that gear train run, so I shut it down. But sometimes that gear will vibrate and just touch the back of the gear running, one of the gears running on the back of the spindle, which will in turn cause the damn thing to spin and make a horrible noise. Alright, I just deburred the outside of this thing. And it's funny, a second ago I couldn't even get this in there. This was heated up from the cutting process and had expanded. That's how tight a fit this is. So that's so far so good. Well, the more I thought about it, it's been a few days since I made this piece. I was talking about how I'm going to have to make another part that's going to clamp on top of this, and that how I wish I had made this as one piece. And I'm looking at this and realizing, well, because this OD right here will actually fit over that bushing, I'm going to have to actually make a piece to go on the bottom to keep this from sliding down, and then use my spacer in there, and then have yet another one on top to do the clamping force to drive the thing. So I don't like my design here, so I've decided that I'm going to just remake this the way I wanted to make it originally, which is stepped so that it does the support, and then I'll still have to make another top piece for clamping it, but at least I'll end up with two pieces to adapt this to work on this arbor or spindle, as opposed to three pieces. And I also wasn't crazy about the fact that I bored this over slightly, and that's a little bit of loose fit there, so I can hopefully do a better job next time, which next time is now. Alright, so I've mounted this piece in my 4-jaw chuck, and I've indicated it to within 1/1000th and a half, and I'm satisfied with that. So now I'm going to face it, make sure my carriage is locked, and it is.